Hello, welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Andrew Musgrove, joined, as you can see, by John Gibson. Thank you very much for tuning in. We do have a special episode coming later this week, all about Newcastle United legends. John produced a lovely pull-out for each PLC. The link is in the podcast description box. And we've done an episode talking all about that. And we were going to release that early in the international break. But given what happened at St James's Park on Sunday, Newcastle United losing 2-1 to Sunderland, and the fallout from that, the debate about Eddie Howe's future, and really what the last 7 games hold for Newcastle United, I felt I had to come here to speak to John because I know you guys watching and listening will want to know exactly how John is feeling, because you'll be hurting just like John. So John, it is with real distaste that we do this episode, because I wanted to be speaking about a Newcastle United victory. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. We'll just start with your initial summing up of what you saw on the afternoon.
Well, shock and sadly belief that this is the Newcastle United of the moment. Shock because I really believed we would win the derby. I believed that after Barcelona, it was the perfect match to give us a chance to bounce back against opposition that was nowhere near the class of Barcelona, with so much revenge on the menu, because even those that didn't realise about the derby, players from abroad, etc., they had lost badly and humiliatingly at the Stadium of Light. So they knew what it means to Geordies, and they would come and put that right. What we got was absolutely shambolic. Our worst nightmare after letting 7 goals in against Barcelona, this is as low as we can get. Because I will repeat, Sunderland on Barca. I said it in the preview and they weren't on the day. They had more heart and desire in us. And by the way, what a condemnation that is. If Newcastle United in a derby match, you can't get up and have heart in a derby match. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. But it was shambolic, and what we saw was what we've seen an awful lot of. First of all, they don't seem to be able to play Eddie Howe's style for 90 minutes anymore. They played for 45 minutes. I mean, you got Anthony Gordon running everywhere in the first, closing down, the suicidal closing down of keeper. Wonderful to see, but I'm thinking, can we keep this? And we don't keep it going. We fall off the edge of a cliff in the second half. It reminds me time and again, and I've mentioned this with you, Andrew, to Bielsa at Leeds. When he first come into Leeds, he was welcomed with open arms, his style of play, by both the players and the fans. And it was wonderfully exciting to close down. They were 100 miles an hour. They played like Eddie Howe's team a season ago or whatever. And they were terrific. And what happened? It was unsustainable. Eventually, they couldn't do it anymore. They ran into a brick wall. Their performance levels dropped hugely and they start getting cuffed. And Bielsa, sadly, had to leave the club. And I looked up his record after that happened, Andrew, and he spent about 2 years at all these clubs. Once he goes into the international scene, it's different. You only play occasionally. But clubs, he had a major impact, played that style all the time, couldn't sustain it, left, went somewhere else, had huge success, left. And I've just got a feeling that Newcastle, it's the end of an era in terms of the way, without being too dramatic, and I don't mean that in terms of what automatically people might think that means how goes, etc., etc. I'm just talking that the format that Newcastle United have played and the way they've played, we've got to be a plan B. Plan A has run its course, and it looks as if it's run its course with the players as well. And there's got to be a variation. Now, how Newcastle United go about that is up to them. And if Eddie stays, it's up to Eddie. And Eddie will stay for the moment. Of course he will. I mean, but long term. But really, something has got to happen because it is not working. And teams have found Newcastle out. They know there's no variation. We do the same thing all the time. It's become boring. It's predictable from Eddie Howe. It's predictable from the players. Tactics are predictable. The white flag when the going gets tough is predictable. We are very much what we are, and we know what we're going to get, and that has to change.
And is that the biggest concern, is that this isn't the first time this sort of defeat has played out? It's the 7th, 8th time maybe this season, and nothing seems to be changing.
Oh, I mean, this has brought everything to a head, in my opinion. The second half capitulation at Barca, when we went from 3-2 to 7-2. The second half capitulation against Sunderland. This cannot go on. Two things strike me. Teams have found out about us and know how to handle us. And secondly, deep down inside, some of the players, I think, have lost the conviction that this is the way to success. This will work. And they've seemed to have dropped off that. And I tell you what, the second halves are producing for me now. It's one of two things are wrong with Newcastle, and I suspect they're both. They're either run out of puff, if you want, in second half, so can't keep the intensity up that they used to keep up, and they've as a consequence, we get cost in the second half, or we haven't got the bottle. And we certainly hadn't the bottle that Sunderland had, and that was the difference between the two teams. Newcastle United have now sacrificed 22 points from winning positions because we've just can't keep going for 90 minutes, or when the going gets tough, we'll let the flag up. Sunderland have a record exactly the opposite of that. They have won numerous points from losing positions. That says big hearts. Ours says not so big hearts.
Weak mentality is what it says, isn't it? And
which is a nicer way of saying bottle, isn't it?
Yeah, and it'd be really intriguing, and I might do this once we finish recording, to actually look at when in the game those points were lost, because the second half, as you mentioned there, which is a really, really big concern and has been all season. And a lot of people, John, are asking, and not for the first time this season, what happens at half time? Because even though Sunderland came into the game the last 5 or 10 minutes, I still thought Newcastle were in relative control of the game. Disappointed they hadn't added to the lead, but I wasn't worried about what Sunderland were doing. I did go in worried about what Newcastle would do in the second half, because we've been here so many times before. And unfortunately, my worries became a reality. And that's the question everyone's asking. What is the message at half time to see such a change in performance?
Well, yeah, I think they just run out. I don't think, like Leeds, like Bielsa, I don't think any side is capable of playing at that height. You can play for a full season. You can play for a season and a half like that. They did. But then it becomes repetitive, and it becomes monotonous to players, and subconsciously it becomes hard work to play at high intensity with quick forwards the whole time. And subconsciously, 2 or 3 of them, the levels drop hugely, and then the whole lot's gone. There's got to be a plan B. I honestly believe we've reached the stage where Newcastle United can no longer play the preferred Eddie Howe way. Eddie Howe's got to look at other ways of Newcastle playing, because just send him a composite of what's happened to Bielsa throughout his career. He is looked upon as a genius tactically, because he turns average sides into wow by the way they play. They only played for 2 years.
But is there not an argument to suggest that at some point during the game, Eddie Howe's game plan changes from one of being on the front foot, being aggressive, high intensity, to then sitting back and being rather defensive? Are you in agreement with that? Or by the way you're speaking, the way I'm interpreting what you've said, do you believe that it seems to be not necessarily a change in the game plan, but simply it happens because the players run out of steam to continue that high press?
I think they run out of steam, but I think they run out of will. They feel, this is hard with this, subconsciously. I don't mean I think subconsciously they look at the thing and they think, we've played like that for the first half. We've only got 1 goal lead. Once the other side start turning the screw against us, then significant players, their standards drop off. I mean, we were second to the ball the whole of the second half, second to the ball, and therefore we finished second in a 2-horse race. You're bound to if that happens. We were unrecognisable. I mean, I'm seeing somebody like, and I'm just using him as an example. I'm not going to hang anything on him whatsoever, but I'm looking at Joe Linton, who's an absolute colossus of a player, sets the tone for us so much. In the second half, they're playing around him. And he is not vum and snapping into tackles and getting the ball. Their centre forward looked more like a Joe Linton type than Joe Linton looked. Blobby was really physically strong, and he bullied our centre halves. Our bullier, our enforcer, wasn't doing the same thing. He is just an example. He wasn't the reason for what happened in the derby. It was all across the park. But Joe's an example, because when he's on, we are on. He was way off being on, as so many were in the second half. Our midfield was non-existent. And I know it was missing Bruno and Tonali. They were missing 7 players. They hadn't the defence because of injuries. But they won the game.
Yeah, and that's the other big frustration, that we didn't take advantage of essentially what was a second string Sunderland side in many ways. But just getting a kind of a final answer on the game plan, because I don't for one second think that the message at half time from Eddie Howe is, right lads, job done in terms of an attacking sense. Now we're just going to take our foot off the pedal. We're just going to kind of sit back a little bit, and we're going to just see the game out. Because if that is the game plan, then it's the totally wrong one, especially in a derby. So I'm just trying to work out what is the answer, because it can't be saying to them at half time, just, come back 10 yards, invite them on, because clearly it doesn't work.
I can't see that. But what was the game plan?
But that's what happens, isn't it? That's what happened on Sunday, correct. And that's what's happened 3 or 4, 5, 7 times this season.
What is said at half time? Because the other manager, whoever were playing, Barcelona 3-2, but for the penalty 2-2 at half time, and we are given as much as we take. Now the 2 managers get half time to talk to the teams that come out. They're transformed, and we are absolutely demoralised and hammered. Same with Sunderland. Their manager gets them in for a quarter of an hour. Our manager, they change the way they're looking at it, perceiving it, they tweak a few things. They boss the game. We disappear. What is happening or what is not happening at half time? Because really, that gives the opposition a chance to put things right and to step on the gas and to organise things. And they do that. We don't seem to do that.
So in that case, we're saying Eddie Howe doesn't change the game plan. He says what he has to say at half time. The players come out. Are we putting that then on the players? Is something missing? The leadership, the experience? Because what happened was they stepped back 10 yards, invited Sunderland on. As we said, not the first time this season. So who is at fault? Who is at blame for this Jekyll and Hyde performance where they do come out and they have a totally different side? If Eddie Howe's not changing the game plan, then is it the mentality of the players? And are the experienced leaders failing to step up and take responsibility?
When things go as badly wrong as they're going with Newcastle United at the moment, it's not one set of... The players must take huge blame. The players never do. The manager gets the cosh every time things go wrong. Or the manager isn't good tactically, he's picked the wrong team, his message is wrong to the players. The players don't take any stick. And then the manager gets a sack, and the players either get a new manager and off they go again, happy as Larry, or they get a big transfer to another club. The players never get what ought to come their way. And we can't stick all this on Eddie, because Eddie has produced so much for us. 2 Champions League campaigns, 2 Wembley appearances, 1 winning a trophy, gone from being a relegation side to a side that's hitting for Europe every season. He's done terrific for us. Has he hit a brick wall now? We're going to find out in the next 7 games in the run into the season, without a doubt. But the players as well must take some responsibility for this. I mean, they collectively and Mad Dog and everybody that's sitting with Eddie on the side of the pitch, they've got to. Everybody's got to take responsibility, and above all, and this is for another day, but I would like to put on the table now. So must the Saudis mind, because are they interested? Are they interested in this club? Are they trying to run the club, or have they got bored with their new toy? I am not seeing enough leadership from there. And if there is leadership, get out up front, hold the flag, talk to your customers, talk to your fans, talk to your manager and everything, and do something about the training ground, do something about the stadium. Let's look as if we actually care. If people cared as much, and I'm not talking about Eddie, but if people cared as much as the Geordies do, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in.
So, I mean, would that be enough to rid the nightmare of Sunday if they came out, the PIF and the Rubens, and said, here's the site for the training ground, here are the plans? I mean, is that what you want over the next 3 weeks? Do you want a big announcement to try?
No, I want to see consistently some form of leadership, some form of taking this club forward. When the Saudis bought the club, were told the sky's the limit. Yes, there's going to be limits in the transfer market on what can be spent, but we are ultra ambitious. We are only interested in success. Hopkinson comes in, he obviously knows what the Saudis have been saying privately, so he comes out and says by 2030, which will haunt him, bless him, to the day he leaves, because that was a flag stuck in the top of the mountain, and we can't even see the top of the mountain at the moment, nowhere near it. But we need consistent leadership. Consistent leadership doesn't happen this next week, like making a statement or get up and say something, and then we can go away to Saudi Arabia and wherever we can go on the beach for the next 3 weeks, the manager or the coaches or the players that aren't with the international, and then we come back and everything's okay. We need constructive and full-on concentration on Newcastle United. And this summer, by the way, is going to make or break this club. What we do this summer, right across the board, in terms of signings, which have got to not be knee-jerk, they've got to be quality, in terms of deciding the manager as a manager and backing him, or deciding he's not the manager and getting somebody else. That's their decision. We can't influence that. Fans may influence it if it stays toxic for the next 7 games. But this summer is what it's all about. But the problems are there now. Start putting them right now. But I don't want a statement next week about the training ground in the stadium and to say this is what's going to happen, and then we all say, "Oh, thank goodness for that." Well, yes, but that's only part of the tentacle. This is an octopus with so many parts, so many legs. That's got to be put right, and they've slowly started to die through a lack of attention. We're not in a major crisis where the club's going to go into the championship or anything of that nature anytime soon, but all the ambitions, all the belief, all the hope that Geordie's had and deserved after the years we've had has slowly melted away like the snow if it comes in March. And that has got to end. We want leadership. We want people to care the way we care. I'm talking now way above Eddie level. I'm talking now about owner level. But it filters all the way down, and it's got to be right with the new CEO. It's got to be right with the director of football. It's got to be right with Eddie. Because we've got to get a hold of this club and shake it up.
I guess they would argue the summer is massive and it's going to be a big test, but it's going to be the first test of that new setup of David Hopkinson and Ross Wilson working.
It is for them,
with
yes.
Eddie Howe, because they've not really had that chance. Obviously, they had the January window, but the January window is the January window. And it's interesting because obviously he did come out, Hopkinson, and say all that stuff about the 2030 vision, and it was great to hear that ambition. But now he's getting a few pelters for saying it, and it is hard to get the balance, I guess, of you want to come out and you want to be big and bold and you want to tell people what the hopes are. But he's done that, and obviously the results since then have then raised questions about how far away they are from that. and he might think differently to do it again. Just a reminder, this episode is sponsored by NordVPN and Saily. Do click the link in the podcast description box to get discounted offers on both products. Perfect if you're going away on holiday. NordVPN allows you to browse on public Wi-Fi safely, while Saily is an eSIM bringing you the best network coverage, and you can choose from 200 destinations. Just going back to the actual game on Sunday, John, the players, do you believe they truly understand this game and what it means to the fans?
If they don't now, they never will, because the hurt, the anger of the way they capitulated at the Stadium of Light. We didn't just lose 1-0 to a goal scored by our own record by. We were awful. We looked as if we didn't care as much as the fans cared. That was rammed home to them time and time and time again by the fans since. We come to the week of the derby and we lose 7 at Barcelona. Now immediately Eddie's switched on to what this means to the fans, how much they're upset by the 7-goal defeat and how much you better not be reproduce something like that at the weekend in a derby match. He'll have been hammering that through to the players. But all the players who played in this game were around for the 1-0 defeat at Sunderland and saw the backlash to that. That is why I believe we wouldn't produce the same sort of performance, because, by Jove, we've just lost 7 and we've got Sunderland. This is a chance to put it right, but by Jove, can you imagine what it'd be like if we don't put it right? Because if you were a foreign player, just jetted in and didn't know about it, don't have to listen to Dan Burn or Lewis Miley or whoever. You saw it for yourself. You heard it for yourself. The relief of Voldemort when the fans didn't turn on him for that goal in a huge derby match. Every man Jack knew what this derby meant to Newcastle United. And then produce a 45 minutes like that. Unforgivable.
Yeah. How did you feel in the aftermath? I mean, forget the aftermath, as the second half was going on.
Oh, I mean, absolutely sickened, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe. Yes.
The thing is, though, you say that you couldn't believe it, but are you surprised?
Oh, it's happened time and time again. But because we talked about the passion of the derby, we talked about how this game is a game apart from any other game. I couldn't believe that in those circumstances we could run up a white flag the way we did. I'm not talking about getting beaten or win or whatever. But they died on their shield. Sunderland wanted it more than us in both derbies, and they've got 6 points, and we've got none. And I'll tell you, they're not a good side. They've got a couple of good players. The centre forward does great for them. Xhaka, who played at Arsenal, is terrific in midfield. Of course, they've got some good players to get to where they are, but they are running on a full tank, and that's what's keeping them going. We look as if we're the spoilt rich kid. The minute things go wrong, we feel sorry for ourselves. Oh, we've played so well first off, but we're only 1 goal up. Look what's happening now. You know, Anthony Gordon, and I know what he was talking about, but come out afterwards and said, I can't believe we lost. They aren't a good side. Well, do something about it. That is technically correct. But what a condemnation that is of Newcastle United. If they're an inferior side to us and you believe that, but you lost because they wanted the game more, what's that say about you?
And lost twice in the season.
Absolutely,
as well.
6 points.
Yeah, I was not a fan of those comments from Anthony Gordon. I asked you guys to get in touch with your thoughts about the game, and a lot of you guys did. So I'm going to read some of the comments out to John and get his thoughts. I had a lot of questions about the formation and the tactics. And Craig asks, why can't we create a low block formation when we are in the lead? And the other question that was quite popular is why Newcastle United can't get the better of a low block side. Because we spoke in the preview, John, and we said, Sunderland are going to come here, they're going to sit in a low block and they're going to frustrate, which means Newcastle can have the majority of the ball. And that's been the case for the majority of sides Newcastle have faced this season, and they've struggled to break them down for the large part of this campaign. Is it a case that Eddie Howe doesn't know how to get the better of a low block side? Is it a case he doesn't have the players to do so? Because the formation doesn't change. Newcastle's formation doesn't change. So does that suggest he doesn't think he's got the personnel to change it to get the better of a low block side? And if so, and the next 7 games are going to be really, really tough, because if you're Nottingham Forest, if you're Brighton, I think Fulham's in there, whoever's in there, you know exactly how to play. Even if it's not your style, you just come here, sit back, or invite us down to yours, sit back, absorb, and you'll probably win the game.
I've always got the feeling that this current Newcastle United side likes to play, it sounds ridiculous because we've lost 7-2, but likes to play the type of thing like Barcelona, who come at you, who want to say, right, fire with fire, we'll see who's the best, we'll try to burn each other and see what happens. A side that pushes on. For 3/4 of that 2-leg tie, we played well against Barcelona, just the last quarter. And with quick players, we like them to come out and leave a lot of space behind them, because then we play the ball over the top and we're flying with our front three. Put a low block on, and for example, and again, I'm just using one player as an example and not pointing a finger purely at him. But Elanga, put a high block on, do what they do, and get the ball over the top against Barca and let him run with his pace, and he can look like a world beater because his pace takes a... Put a low block on against Elanga, two banks of 4, and he gets the ball at his feet, and his pace is negated to a certain extent, and it's now a cleverness. He's dead.
But this is the thing, we said this in the preview, we both said he'll probably play him, but he shouldn't do, because it's not the right game for him. And you are right, Newcastle United at their best are when they don't have a lot of the ball, when they are penned in to a degree, and then they can just hit teams on the counter, they can run into space, they can move the ball with pace. But the issue is, not just this season, but the season before as well, teams have found Newcastle out. Teams know Newcastle like to play like that.
Of course.
So they rock up in a low block, and Newcastle United have got absolutely zero answer to it. And this has been the case for the last couple of seasons. And what is the answer? Because Eddie, unfortunately, doesn't appear to have the answer. Now, the hope is, over the next 7 games, when he's got more time on the training pitch, he will find the answer.
By the way, that's going to pull the rug from under somebody's feet, isn't it? Because all Newcastle have said all season is that we don't have enough time on the training ground to organise things, etc., etc. They've now got that.
Yeah.
If we still don't find the answers when we're only playing once a week,
that's probably the biggest concern for Eddie Howe, I think, is because everyone's said that about him. He's alluded to it in press conferences, but now he's got it. So,
right.
He hasn't got any room for error, because he's made it known. That's kind of maybe why things haven't clicked this season. But now he's got that. It has to work. It has to, because if it doesn't, then those questions people are asking are going to get louder and louder at the end of the season. I mean, for what it's worth, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be here. I think he will be manager next season. But I do think he needs to win the majority of games of this campaign. I think. Look, if he loses 4 of the 7, I still don't think he goes anywhere. But what that does, it means the first 5 games of next season, you've got to win all 5 really, or otherwise the pressure ramps right up, doesn't it?
Bobby Robson, an absolute legend with a statue outside the ground. He lost 4, I think, of the last 5, if the 5 of a new season, and got the sack. And by the way, he's a legend. So, and this manager may well be a legend in long term because of what he's done for Newcastle United. But a legend doesn't stop you getting the sack. We sacked Joe Harvey. We sacked Bobby Robson. It happens. You can be a legend. Eddie's a legend of Bournemouth. He still got ushered out at the end of his time there, bless him. It happens to people whether they're legends or not. And when you asking before, Andrew, about the low block and why Newcastle look the way they look, 2 things strike me. If you're playing against a low block, etc., which Newcastle do regularly now, the only way to unpick that is cleverness. You've got to be clever. You can't be bang, 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 runners, because there's nowhere to run with a late block. It is difficult to get in behind. So you've got to be clever. Now, have that essentially for me means a midfielder, a central midfielder who unpicks locks, who is clever. Now, we have got some good midfielders. Tonali's an absolute workhorse who will produce your pass. Bruno he epitomises everything about Newcastle United, and Joe Linton's a brute. But are any of those three, and we've got backup, or any of them, and the backup, Ramsey, where they pick a pass where you go, regularly.
Technically gifted, that's what we're after.
Correct,
isn't it?
absolutely. And the second is, you've got to have a centre forward who's a natural goal scorer. Isaac got us through low blocks last season because he's got such wonderful feet. He takes up terrific positions and he finishes well. 27 goals, 25 the season before. We haven't got that sort of centre forward now. So that and somebody technically gifted that unpicks locks in midfield, if you have neither, and we have neither at the moment, you struggle against the low block.
I also think you need a number 10. I think you need to change the formation.
Well, that's the other thing. He's got to look at what he does with his formation, because he's rigid 4-3-3, and if he changes it, it's normally just to go 5 at the back. It's not to play 10. So he's, and by the way, he may as well experiment in the next 7, because what is there to lose? You might say there's a place in one of the minor European places to get, but we're already losing that with the sort of results we're getting. So perhaps look at the situation, and perhaps it might just find an answer to Voltemade.
Yeah, and you guys watch and listen and let me know your thoughts on this, because I think if we see Eddie Howe change something up and, you know, trial something, and even if it doesn't come off, I think actually that might get him even more credit, because at least he's looking like he's trying to adapt. He's looking like he's moving from that rigid formation that he's used over the last few years. And then, you know, obviously he goes into pre-season, you can work on it a little bit more, new players come in. Because I think if it's just the same thing over and over again, that might not go too well in his favour. Now, you mentioned Alexander Isak there, John, and that was one of the things that Eddie Howe referenced after the game against Sunderland. Is it still a valid excuse to be using Isak's exit as a reason to why this season domestically hasn't gone quite to plan?
It is the reason why it's gone pear-shaped, but the reason why it's gone pear-shaped is our own fault. We allowed the transfer to happen far too late when it was absolutely inevitable, because his heart was out of this club from the last day of last season. So it was absolutely inevitable he was going to get his way. If you stick their guns, it's called player power. It has always existed and it always will. We handled it atrociously. We flexed our muscles. We come out with statements. We will stand strong. We will not be bullied. We will do this, do that, do the other. Bottom line is he went. And what happened? We panicked. We tried for him. I mean, the 2 centre forwards we got were almost off his original wish list. Their names have fallen off the bottom because we went through 6 before we got to them. And it is the reason we're in the mess we are, but it isn't an excuse for the current Newcastle United hierarchy, because they handled his going abysmally and they absolutely panicked in finding an answer to it, and bought 2 players whose biggest condemnation of Newcastle's transfers last summer is that when everything went pear-shaped, Wissa and Voltemade sat on the subs bench. I know he started in the derby, but only because Tonali was out and he started in midfield. Neither Wissa or Voltemade, who cost combined all of Isak's money, neither considered good enough to be selected from the start at centre forward in the Newcastle United side now. What on earth does that tell you?
And even more so that it was a Sula that came off the bench ahead of Wissa.
Totally.
And there was one thing I noticed on Sunday was when Wissa was warming up, Graham Jones came out of the technical area and looked at him. And to me, he looked like he was telling him to run a bit more, run a bit harder in the warm-up. Now, that might not have been what was happening, but that's just how I interpreted Graham Jones's actions towards Wissa. And if that is right, then big questions have to be asked, because if he's not warming up correctly on the touchline, then no wonder he's not playing. No wonder he's only coming on for 3 minutes. It's a big, big concern. And right now, Eddie Howe, he needs his big money strikers to turn up for these last 7 games? Because football's a simple game, John. It's goals that win your games, and it's goals and points that are going to help lift the cloud off Eddie Howe.
Talking about body language, and I'm a great believer in body language, and I'm not wanting to stripe for this, but I did sit last season with Supermac, who knows a little bit about centre forwards, and said, "What do you think of Isaac?" Long before anything was getting in the paper, straight after Wembley, I said, "He looks as if he's tapped to me." His body language told you that he wasn't totally at the races. His body was there, but his mind wasn't. And that Newcastle United fans should look at every single player in every game between now and the end of the season, look at them individually and decide what your body language is telling you. Is your body language telling you this guy wants a transfer in the summer and will use the excuse of no Champions League football to try and justify it publicly or not? Do they look, if they all tried and cared as much as Hall does, and as much as Bruno does when he's there, we might not just be in the position we're in now. But you talked about what it looked with Graham Jones there, which is a terrific point. Didn't you read recently that Rooney, who knows something about playing centre forward as well, was pitch side when a lot of our players in a recent match come out, the subs, to warm down, and he said the 2 centre forwards looked very disinterested in the warming down process. They went through the motion rather than sort of say, "Hey, I'm up for the fight, come on, let's go, and why aren't you picking me?" There's a lot that is borderline in what do players feel about the current Newcastle situation. Do they blame themselves? Do they blame the manager? Have they just lost interest? Or they're already looking to their agent to get them a move to a new club and off we go, a la Isaac, etc., etc. Newcastle United, in my humble opinion, need a right clear out this summer. They need to get people in and equally to get people out, because one of the things Eddie has done wrong for me is being far too loyal to players for far too long. You can go through Callum Wilson, Jamal Lascelles, Miggy Almiron, players that are here now. What'll he do with Trips? What with Kraft? You wanted Longstaff. He never wants any player to go because they fit into this band of brothers situation. Well, we've got to have a shake-up this summer, because it's going to be as important who goes out as who comes in, because this dressing room cannot remain exactly as it is now, or 7/10 of it be exactly as it is now, because this appears to me now to be the point where we do say, well, it's been terrific, it's been wonderful, tar guys, etc., etc., but let's have a shake-up, let's do something different, let's get the dressing room different, and where everybody's excited and is going again. Not where 1 or 2 players are saying, "Oh, I'm disappointed, I was hoping for a summer move to a big club and I haven't got it, so I've got to play here again." And then how much is the heart in it next season?
We're focusing a lot on the players, but how much blame falls on Eddie Howe?
Oh, yes. I mean, we were focusing exclusively on Eddie Howe, at least I wasn't, and I said, we've got to bring the players into it. And that's absolutely true. But Eddie Howe, for all what he's done, I mean, he splits the fan base hugely. I mean, I get messages all the time, and they're always passionate. But they're either passionate that Eddie should go or passionate that Eddie should stay because he's the best manager we've had since Bobby Robson. And I can understand both arguments, and everybody's got a right to their opinion, but it is split like that. And Eddie has got to take a look at himself and decide that he's not going to be as rigid as he has been, because it was all right when it was working, that it must be 4-3-3, that we must be a band of brothers, that we must play high octane, full power, high press. All that worked. But it's not working now, and it hasn't been working for a while. So forget the band of brothers. Let's shake up the dressing room. Let's find out on the last day of the season, those who want to go. the big names I'm talking about, and say, okay, son, your heart's not in this club, we're going to let you go. But we're going to let you go right at the beginning of the summer. And we're going to sign players right at the beginning of the summer. So they've got the whole... Please do not sign people in the last few days of the transfer window, when the season started, when they haven't had a pre-season with us, when they haven't got used to our style. Please do. Excuse me, Ross and Eddie and everybody else, you know now what's going to happen in the summer. Start doing it now, because you can do it all now and then press the button once the transfer window opens. But please do not leave it for, and we'll get the excuse, nothing can be done, it's World Cup year and all that, and players and agents don't want to do things like come back. We have got to start biting the bullet and get the job done. And we've got to start signing people, like when we went for Ekitike. How long did we try to get him? How long did we try to get Trafford? Then we lose Trafford to Man City and we lose Ekitike to Liverpool. What a surprise. We could have signed them ages ago. Let's get on with it and get the job done. And those that want to go can go. Because if their heart's not with us, we don't want them. And others that mightn't want to go, but are past their sell-by date, we tell them, sorry, thanks very much, but you've got to go. Look at our defence. Pope's 33, Trippier's 36, Burns 33, Shaw's 34. They've been wonderful. Eddie loves them to the day they die, but you can't. Time waits for no man. We can't hold back age, unfortunately. So we've got to give some players a big kiss, thank them for everything, put them on the top shelf of public opinion. We're thrilled to bits with what you've done for this club, but the time to go is now.
And do you think the changes at board level with the transfer team and what have you, does that also offer Eddie a little bit extra protection, that he does deserve a summer with a full strategy, with the two new appointments, and let's see how it works?
It was shambolic last summer. It really was shambolic. And initially Eddie might have, because all managers like to run every aspect of the club. They want their finger in every part, the fields that makes them indispensable, that everything goes in the direction I want to go to. And I'm certain Eddie, with his nephew in the scouting room, etc., thought theoretically at the start of last summer, well, I've got full control of this, I'm going to make the best of it. Too much work. One man, however good, cannot do everybody else's job. And that's what we try to do. And in the end, we were floundering around. It's right that the manager should have the last say on who comes in, because he's going to pick the team. And if he gets the wrong players, he doesn't want to pick them. That is right. But he can't do every job. And as good as Newcastle United's buying had been for 3 years, after the takeover, it was horrendous this summer. It really was horrendous this summer, and that's got to be put right this summer. And yes, but the interesting thing is, if Eddie, and yes, I think he's earned that right, and with the people above him that he's really dovetailed with, he loves Ross Wilson, he loves Hopkinson, so the situation has no conflict in boneheads there at all. But they've got to get it right, because we have got it hopelessly wrong. And what happens, you see, when Bobby Robson got the sack, they give him all that summer to form the new Newcastle, and then sacked him 5 games into the season. Well, what was the point of the summer, etc., etc.? And the one thing I would say on those that want Eddie out, and I'm leaving it, I'm not sitting on the fence. I believe that you're clever about this. Eddie Howe's not going to go now, and neither should he go now. And you don't want a caretaker for the last 7 games, else it's going to get embarrassing. Eddie Howe has got to stay, and he's got to stay till the summer. And unless he makes a complete dog's dinner of the next 7 games, complete dog's dinner, they will stick with him. We'll stick with him. It seems like an awful long road back to get back to wall-to-wall loving, etc., but it's not impossible. But it's got to start right now with the right signings and to get that, he has got to have 100% backing, and not just from the two guys that work with him, like Hopkinson and Wilson, but the Saudis. The Saudis have got to show interest. If they are interested, if they're passionate behind the scenes, and by the way, I didn't see them at they might have been there, but I didn't see them at the Derby match, and I didn't see them when we played Barcelona at home, sitting watching us. I believe the word Barca away. But, you know, this was a huge match on Sunday, a huge match. Where was our flag bearers? I want more, because it's no good just doing it in the quietness of the shadows.
I guess interesting though, and this is kind of going off on a tangent, but the hope from some might be that means Hopkinson and Ross Wilson have more scope to just get things done, because one of the criticisms of the last few years is that obviously everything has to go through Riyadh before the big decisions are made. But maybe they've looked at Hopkinson, they thought this is a man with a really good CV, Ross Wilson as well, good experience, and maybe they're just going to hand a bit more trust over to them to get those decisions done so they can sign players a little bit quicker. Obviously, we'll wait until the summer to see, but let us know your thoughts on the ownership. But you've kind of given your answer there, John, and this is where we're gonna sign off. Eddie Howe, he is the man to lead Newcastle United forward, not just to the end of the season, but into next as well.
That is, ask me in the summer, ask me at the end of the season. And that's not hedging your bets. When you've got to be clever when you're running a football club, and you've got to not be knee-jerk, but you also got to be bold. Those are three essential things. Be clever, don't be knee-jerk, but be bold. And there's no need for a decision today. I mean, after 7 again, I never expected 7 at Barcelona. We could lose and get knocked out. Of course we could, but I never expected 7. And I certainly didn't expect to lose the derby here. So what's going to happen in the next 7? Could we win all 7? One of them's Arsenal. Could we win all 7? Could we lose all 7? We'll do neither. It'll be some. But what will be the majority? And then decisions will be made. Now, unless something goes horrendously wrong and the fans become so toxic, there's demonstration. And for the first time, and I was shocked, when I was walking out the press box at the end of the game against the derby, Newcastle fans in the ground are always pro Eddie and sing Eddie's Black and White Army, etc., etc. He had the courage to lead from the front on the walk round, the lap of dishonour, if you like, because of the derby result, and he led from the front. But I was shocked walking from the press box downstairs into the press room, the number of Newcastle fans pressed up against the barrier with contorted faces and the veins standing out and then like shouting abuse at both Eddie and the players at the end of the game. I haven't seen that in St James's Park since the takeover, because the toxic people are the keyboard warriors or the people that are at home. That shook me. Now, if that got worse, it would change things perhaps in the summer. But at the moment, Eddie is the boy for the rest of the season, is the boy for the summer, and is the boy for the start of the next season, unless something dramatically goes wrong. And the roof caved in on Sunday. If the wheels fall off, by May, it'll be a different kettle of fish. But, so we're on trial. There's 2 trials goes on with managers. And by the way, this is just the way it is. And as I say, we sacked Robson and Harvey, 2 of the 3 greatest managers. Keegan's the other one we've ever had. And Howe goes into that bracket. And we will always be eternally, whenever Howe goes, whether it was the summer or whether it's 5 years' time, he will be remembered as a manager that produced great things for Newcastle United. But you will still be judged there's 2 ways of being judged. He's been judged in Saudi and he's been judged in the court of public opinion. And really, he's got to get a tick from both sides. And it's a long road back after Barca and after the derby, because they showed up the worst of us. It wasn't unexpected. We'd seen it before. Let him put it right. He is a good man. a good heart. He cares about the club like there's no tomorrow, but he's got to be less rigid. He's got to find a plan B. He's got to shake up people that don't like to be. He is taking all the flack publicly in defending his players, and I can understand that. But I hope in private he's ripping their heads off, because they are to blame as well as him. And he protects them. Are they protecting him?
Well, not with performances like we saw on Sunday. Thanks, John, for providing his viewpoint on the defeat to Sunderland and the future of Eddie Howe. Do get into the comments and let us know your thoughts on anything that we've discussed here. Thank you to everyone who did send in your tweets to me over the last couple of days. I have seen and read every one of them, and it's a big thanks for you guys for engaging. Do hit like, do subscribe, and do remember to take advantage of your offers on your Saily and NordVPN products. Until next time, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you guys very soon.